Good morning, everybody. Welcome to your Rangers Review Morning Briefing. It is Monday, the 8th of September. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning by Joshua Barry. How goes it, Joshua?
Goes fine, mate. Goes fine. How are you? Did you have a good weekend? I saw you were at some Rangers thing somewhere, but only glanced at it on my timeline.
Yeah, great night on Saturday night. I was invited to the Merseyside Rangers Supporters Club. Big shout out to Elvis for the invite. Thank you, sir.
Oh.
But met many fans and subscribers to the show over there. It was a great night. Willie Henderson was in attendance, and he was giving us some of his footballing stories. Had a chat with him as well. Absolutely cracking guy. Really is. Term legend is usually bandied around willy-nilly these days, but that is a bona fide Rangers legend, and he was a true gent as well. So it was good to chat with Willie, and good night's entertainment had by all. So big up the Merseyside Rangers Supporters Club. If you're down that neck of the woods, folks, do go and pay them a visit. Do you get up to much yourself, Joshua, over the course of the Rangers free weekend?
No, I was just enjoying first weekend in a while, Derek, that's not been dominated by some sort of, transfer or someone from England who you've not heard about before that you're trying to do a bit of due diligence on. So just caught up with some friends, mate. Watched a little bit of football, watched the Scotland game, which was a good point for them, but a dull 90 minutes. And that was about it. Nothing much to report.
I heard it wasn't up to much the game, but I guess a point away at Denmark is generally not a bad result, I'd imagine. Who is it they play next? Do they play tonight or is it Tuesday?
Belarus tonight, I think. Away. Belarus. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but must win, I think, if you're going to get to the top of this group. So yes, but anyway, let's go on to Raskin.
What is just to deviate slightly? What it's a 4-team group, isn't it? Is it just the top team that qualifies, or the second team going to a playoff or something?
I think I'm gonna. There will be someone in the comments who is best from the detail of this than me, but I think it's top goes through, and some of the second go into a playoff or a kind of like a secondary qualifier. But it's a 4-team group. 4-team group. And if you get a point away, at Denmark to start with, as you say, Derek, there is worse ways to start. So let's see.
I just hope that the Rangers players that are away on international duty come back in one piece. And we're going to talk about one such player. Graham Corkin is a Warrington-based player. He was at the night last night. Good to see you again, Graham. And yes, I have your 2 Rangers framed prints. Actually, I have funnily enough, that leads us nicely on. I've got Graham picked for a Nico Raskin signed jersey, which I have in my living room, keeping it as you went clubbing in Liverpool. So you can come around and get it whenever, but that leads us nicely on because before we do that, there's a quick word for our podcast sponsors, Willows Fencing, the Glasgow-based fencing company you can trust, proud partners of the Rangers Review. They've got over 20 years experience in the fencing game. If you're looking for a new fence, folks, these are the guys to call. They offer free consultations, and you also get 10% off with the code Rangers Review over on their website, which is willows-fencing.com. Right, let's talk about Nico Raskin then, because he started for Belgium last night. Not only did he start against Kazakhstan, but he also scored his first international goal as Belgium ran out 6-0 winners in that game. He scored at the back post, nipped in for a tap, and I don't think he'll score an easier goal in his career, to be honest, but good to see him get on the score sheet. And interestingly, he was speaking about his future and what's going on at Ibrox after the game. And this is what he has been quoted as saying: "My situation at the club is a bit complicated. I'm going to go back, do the best I can to sort it out, get some playing time. But it doesn't just depend on me. It depends on the coach, the club. I'll do my best because I know this is an important year. And I absolutely want to be part of this campaign with Belgium. That's football. There are ups and downs. The truth is, I love this club so much. I've had some wonderful times here, and I have a great relationship with the fans. I try to give back to them as much as I can. I still hope we can find a solution. A transfer? No, that's out of the question. I want to continue to resolve this at the club." Wow, what did you make of that, Joshua? He's very candid there and speaking about his love of Rangers, doesn't want to go anywhere.
Yeah, it doesn't want to go anywhere. And I guess Chris had the story on deadline day, Derek, I think quite early in the day, that although everything had materialised in the background, we'd reported a few days prior that Nico Raskin wasn't involved in the build-up and wasn't expected to be involved in the Old Firm game, as materialised. But very quickly it emerged on deadline day, because there was some news over, I think, Copenhagen, some interest from Copenhagen. There'd been some Premier League interest in him. I believe the most concrete of that was Wolves, but they had some issues that they effectively would have needed to register a homegrown player next, I believe, with their kind of squad quota. And also, Raskin wanted to stay. And the whole backstory of this to me, Derek, and we can get into a little bit of how we got here. Why is this guy who can play at the base of midfield for his country? Why is he not being at the base of midfield for Rangers? Why have they recruited elsewhere? But to me, it kind of sums up the fact that you can't ignore, in the Old Firm, you can never ignore what's going on at the other side of the city. And at the moment, Celtic are not in a great shape. You saw that in the Old Firm game. I think you see that with their summer window. The biggest criticism I would have of Rangers August is, yes, there was a lot of change going on, but they've not been strong enough to really capitalise upon that. And something like this Raskin drama, call it for what it is, doesn't help that. And we can get into whose fault is it. As I think Raskin says in his quotes, there's two sides to every story. There's two sides to this. But clearly he is staying. Rangers are a better team with him in it. And clearly he's better at the base of midfield than higher up the pitch. So, it's going to be intriguing to see that lineup against Hearts, Derek. I think most people will want to see Raskin at the base of that midfield. And, how Russell Martin plays it from now, I think is delicate, because clearly there was only a little bit of singing for Raskin at the Old Firm, but clearly fans want to see him in the team. And clearly, as I go back to, Rangers are better with him in it. So it's going to be intriguing to see how it plays out from here.
Yeah, he was playing in a 4-2-3-1 last night at the base of midfield alongside Yuri Tielemans, with Kevin De Bruyne just ahead of him. Not a bad midfield trio, you've got to say. And it really, it's bewildering to know that he wasn't really getting in the Rangers team, and then he's got partnering some of the best midfield players on the planet there. So, it really is a strange one. Is the positional, I know that, of course, they were asking Nico to do something a little bit alien to what he's used to. You mentioned there at the base of midfield, he wants to play as a six. Does he need to have a partner in there, like we seen last night, Joshua, as opposed to just him sitting there on his own?
I've got some quotes, Derek, from a few years ago, and I was speaking to one of Raskin's former managers at Standard Liège, a guy called Luca Elsner, who went on to manage, I think, Paris FC. And he said this about Raskin: he's not a sitting holder midfielder like a Busquets. That's the comparison he used for that role. That doesn't define him. I think Nico needs to be able to move forwards. He can work in a double pivot, but he needs to be the guy who can be one step further forwards and is able to get the ball a bit higher in the final third. Defensively, he also needs freedom to go and press higher. His game doesn't function well when everything is static. He's strong in the transitions as well. I would see him more as a number 8 than a number 6, but I don't expect him to be in trouble if he plays in a double pivot. And the reason I bring up those quotes is Raskin has had this as quite a few managers who have looked at him and profiled him and said, you're better a little bit higher up the pitch, as opposed to in the right at the base of midfield. And you think back to Michael Beale, who kind of moved him around to different positions, but used them quite a lot as a number 8. Philippe Clement at the start, it basically took almost Raskin being forced into that position for him to play there consistently. And I think the reason is that, and this translates into the summer with Russell Martin, Joe Rothwell started okay. I think he's had then a really difficult few weeks, and he's definitely not shown himself yet as someone who should be coming in and taking the place of Raskin. But the reason I think that's happened is that he's a bit safer on the ball probably, and he's maybe a bit of a calmer head. I think if there's one criticism of Raskin, is that at points he can rush things a little bit. At points he's maybe not safe and secure enough in possession. And that's the one spot in this team that needs that. However, that's all very well if the alternative to him is playing the role brilliantly and if the team's functioning really well. It's not. And you go away to the game against Bruges, Derek, it only took 2 minutes for Joe Rothwell to get skipped by in transition. It was the first time Bruges got up the pitch. And I couldn't help but think in that moment, and I remember noting it down, that's the type of moment that Raskin stops. He keeps you in the final third. He covers so much space. So in this setup, I think that the midfield is quite extreme in that you've got a really deep number 6 and 2 number 8s who are very different to like the number 8s that were playing under Barry Ferguson. And people will say, Raskin played as a number 8 under Ferguson at the end of last season. But it was a totally different setup. You didn't have high and wide wingers. You had fullbacks providing the width. It was more like a Gerrard number 8 dropping in to get the ball and still moving towards it. And what you saw Raskin do at the start of this season was, I think, occupy roles that are unnatural for him, almost picking the ball up in like the area that a left winger would. So presuming that this midfield is going to stay the same, and maybe we'll see it go to a double pivot at the base of midfield as we did against Celtic at points. The number 6 is clearly more suited to him than this number 8 in this system. And I go back to it, I think it's a key decision for Russ and Martin to make, because if Raskin's staying, you've got to play him in the team. It's an easy way. I don't think Rangers have played the politics very well across the board this summer. And I think it's an easy win to get a little bit of goodwill back on side, learn from the first month. Rothwell can play a bit higher up the pitch too. But that wasn't the plan necessarily in the summer. So we'll see what happens. But that's why I think he's been playing a little bit higher up. And also because he's so good off the ball. You see that with the example I used in the summer was Declan Rice, someone who's got this extreme pressing ability. So he was signed as number 6, but he gets used higher up the pitch. But again, I think the number 8s that Martin uses are quite, it's just quite an extreme version of it. So Telo Asgard's maybe comfortable picking the ball up in left wing positions, but I don't think you see the best version of Raskin when he's occupying that role.
Lots of opinions on this coming in, and you can expect. So I'll get to a few of them. Andrew Phillips says, Raskin plays better with a partner. He can press and let his partner sit or cover for him if he pushes forward. And just on the back of that, interesting point from Nicky, says in a 4-2-3-1, I actually think Raskin and Rothwell would complement each other well. Do you think that could be a go, the pair of them just sitting in there, scurrying away?
Scurrying away. A friend of the show, Adam Thornton, made this point in one of our tactics podcasts at some point over summer, that Rothwell, if you look at the minutes he's played, he had a lot of appearances for Leeds last season, but if you look at the actual minutes, he's on track to play a lot more than he has over the last few seasons.
Yeah.
And he was kind of, you see when you watched him for Leeds, or the perception you had of him as a midfielder was really busy and covered ground well. And whether it's just that the start of the season has taken him unawares, which, listen, he wouldn't be the first player up here for that to happen to. Because I thought the first few games, he didn't necessarily notice him, but I don't always think that's the worst thing in a number 6. You kind of keep the team ticking over, don't lose the ball in loads of bad areas, and knit the side together. But since then, you think of St Mirren away, and that performance was not that. So the 4-2-3-1 you saw against Celtic, I wouldn't mind Rangers moving to that, because they've not been very secure, and it would maybe change the function of the fullbacks. What you saw against Celtic was Magoma was actually kind of high and wide, and Mikey Moore was tucking inside from that left wing. So there was a bit of variation. But then the question is, who plays? How does that impact things to line up? Do you play Telo Asgard as an out-and-out number 10? Then you don't have those 2 number 8s to like dovetail with the winger and the fullback, which is a big part of what this football should look like when it works against a low block. And also, I don't know what you thought, Derek, is another point. I thought Diomande was probably Rangers' best player against Celtic.
But
we tend to only see those performances from Diomande in kind of fast, frenetic games. And I just wonder if, again, now you've got a bit more of depth at midfield, you need to rotate him out more frequently for games against low blocks where he hasn't been great, I think, so far this season. Comparatively against Celtic, I think he normally looks like one of the better players on the pitch.
Yep. Scott Girvin with the point says, I prefer Raskin in more advanced roles. 6 is too deep for me. I've seen someone on social media, I noticed someone suggesting Rangers should play a 3 of Barron as the holding midfielder, Raskin as a box-to-box midfielder. You're shaking your head already. No. And Lyle Cameron as the 10, which I thought, okay, I could see that working. But you're shaking your head vigorously there, Joshua. You're not a fan of that idea.
No, I just think we've seen this with Conor Barron. Listen, Conor Barron was really good against Celtic, but I think he's better when the game's in front of him and he's pressing and he's busy and he's getting around the pitch. I don't think the number 6 role, if you're playing as a lone number 6 in a system like this, requires you to take the ball in really dangerous areas. I think you have 2 options. You have someone like Raskin or Diomande who can take the ball I think the term would be you're resistant to the press, so you can move through it in some capacity. You can, Diomande does that nice little turn where he receives in his back foot and he goes back across his man. Raskin's got really good close control for someone who can also then cover big spaces off the ball. And Rothwell's more maybe someone who, in theory, is a good technician, so should be able to open up other spaces and the passes that he does play that means that he keeps the ball for the team. I don't think Barron falls into any of those categories.
Yeah.
For me, he's always been better as like a number 8. I know he started as a number 6 under Clement, but the football was direct. If you're playing a lone number 6 in this system, I think August shows, unless Rothwell comes back a completely different face, different player, maybe at points he can occupy that. Because although Alloa at home, I know it's Alloa at home, but he looked better on the ball and tried a few passes through the thirds and looked like someone who maybe had a little bit more capacity to play a few line-breaking passes. But I think Raskin, and again, this ties into maybe a bit of criticism of the window or critique of the window. It's early, so we don't know how it's going to play out.
Yeah.
The question we spoke about a lot last week, Derek, was, do Rangers have a spine? And if Raskin was going to stay at the club this summer, as has materialised, that wasn't a position you needed to invest in really at all. Maybe you bring in another midfielder who can play across the midfield positions, but I'd argue that you'd have been better spending a little bit more money at left back or somewhere else in the team that could have used that extra resource to have a long-term solution there. Someone who could start most games there. Raskin's one of the only players in the squad at the moment that I think you look at from the outside and think he could start any game in that position against that opponent. And if you look across the team at the moment, I don't think that's as clear in a number of other positions.
Interesting stuff indeed. Just on the issue of playing as 2 6s in upcoming games, James says he would be a fan of that against Hearts and Hibs, which are coming up. It'll be interesting to see how Hearts approach the game at Ibrox. I think certainly if they were at Tynecastle, their fans would be fully expecting them to have a right go at Rangers. But at Ibrox, Derek McInnes will have seen the playbook, how to get a result against Rangers. I very much expect Rangers to have a lot of the ball in. Hearts looking to breakaway and counter. They have struggled themselves, but they are getting results. Rangers aren't. That's the issue.
Yeah.
And a real 6-pointer on Saturday, Joshua. We've discussed this, I think, when we were both on Friday. A draw is no good. He has to win this game, pure and simply.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there. And you say that Hearts have had, and they fell 3-0 down at home to Motherwell. They were losing away at Livingston, but they've still got results. And I think I've not been looked at that closely, but I think quite often you've seen McInnes not play the new players that much yet. It's still been a team that's been quite reflective of maybe seasons gone by, but they clearly have recruited a couple of exciting players from just what I've heard and looked at. Braga up top, spent a fair amount of money on a Brazilian midfielder, I think, breaking their transfer record for that.
Yep.
And the reason it's must win is Russell Martin is right in saying, in one sense, that the league isn't done. Rangers are 6 points behind. They can chase whatever it may be, but that's not the ideal situation, and you don't give yourself much room by starting like that. You don't give yourself room in September by starting like you did in August. So if Rangers go out and they beat Livingston away from home, and they beat Hearts at home, and they beat Hibs, and they have a few good performances, then they can move past August. But if they go and draw 1-1 against Hearts and people aren't seeing much in the way of a difference from the month of August, that's when things start to become a bit tricky. So yeah, must win. And I, to throw it back to you, I presume do you think Raskin will start at the base of midfield?
Has to. There's no if, buts, or maybes on that one. Incidentally, Kevin Thewell, we spoke about what he said when that Rangers TV interview, when the issue of Raskin was brought up. He says he'll sit down with Nico alongside Russell and talk about what we do next. He says we all want a stronger Rangers team, and we all want a better Rangers team and a winning Rangers team. He says, I think that's also important to make the point. This year is a very important year for Nico, with the World Cup on the horizon as well. So, a conversation will be had when he returns from international duty. The outcome simply has to be back in the team, and they all need to shake hands and get on with things. The next step, though, you sort of touched on it, Joshua, is that contract situation. It was a big talking point over the course of the summer, where we were saying, well, Nico's at a Rangers crossroads. Should they be looking to sell him on if he doesn't sign a new deal? A new deal has to be in the offing, even if it's just a year, just to sort of cover Rangers' backs, I would say. But that has to be a priority for the club now to get him tied down, does it not?
Yeah, and I don't think that. I also think this is a bit of an opportunity, Derek. That listen, if Rangers had lost that Old Firm game, and I still think that it's more missed opportunity than good point. You know, if you look at what's unfolding at Celtic and the fact that, again, I just think Rangers have not been strong enough to capitalise when their opponents have been weak, and that's been the story of so many occasions. I think in recent years that they've not been consistent and steady enough themselves to do that. But you see, if let's speak hypothetically, at Friday's press conference, Russell Martin comes out and he says, "Look, we've sat down, we've squashed our differences. Nico is someone who plays with his heart on his sleeve, and I want that at the club. I like that. Sometimes maybe that oversteps a line. Sometimes maybe he needs something different from me. We're going to work together. He's going to have to compete for that number 6 role, but we're going to work together. We both want the best for the club. Happy days."
Yeah.
Now, not to be a PR advisor, Derek, which I'm not. But
you're in the wrong job.
I'm in the wrong job, but that strikes me as there's always an opportunity out of something like this, and especially because Rangers did not lose, especially because they're a stronger team with him in it. Now, of course, he will have faults in his game, and like any player, he will at times frustrate managers. And you speak to people about Raskin, and I think he is a guy who wears his heart on his sleeve. And Neil McCann was speaking about that interestingly on Sky, I think on the day of the Old Firm. Yeah. I don't mind, and I'm not managing him. I don't mind that, Derek, because you need someone with that personality, I would argue at times, to be able to take the pressure off the fans. That to me is, people might disagree about this, and maybe Russell Martin disagrees with this, and this is why this has come to a head. But sometimes I think that's what a leader looks like on the pitch, is someone who can be difficult and can ruffle feathers at points, but you know he's not going to hide away from the ball. You know he's not going to not give his all for the team, and you know that he's got the quality to get Rangers out of certain situations. Now, we're not speaking about someone who's led Rangers to like 3 titles and has had bad moments in a Rangers shirt. I would also argue that if you look at Raskin's again a good example of it. Took him until last season to really play consistently in his favoured position, and the kind of individual development that he was probably promised when he made the step to Rangers from Liège just hasn't happened, and didn't happen because of how much of a flux this club has been in. So again, there's probably context of it from both sides, but if it was me, that's how I'd be trying to approach this situation from here on in, at least until January, and then obviously the end of the season.
Yes, interesting stuff indeed. But yeah, he has to be back in the team for Hearts, and it'll be interesting to see it going forward. I mean, we were told when we had the Southampton journalist on, Alfie, giving us the lowdown on Russell Martin prior, when he was appointed, he did say that one of his strengths is man management. So maybe we shall see that take place with Nico Raskin. Let's hope that is the case. Of course, last week as well, when I was on with Blair, we posted up our strongest Rangers 11s if we were in Russell Martin's shoes. And I like this. Andrew Phillips says, starting to believe in Derek's 4-4-2 formation, a partner for Raskin and a partner for Miovski. Good stuff, Andrew. Yep. Bring back the 4-4-2. I think off the top of my head, the strongest Rangers 11 I had was Butland Tav, Suter, Cornelius, and Magoma, midfield of Antman. Incidentally, just speaking about Antman, Chris has got a great piece on the website, a feature on Antman. He's spoken to some of his old coaches and charted his rise in football to his move to Ibrox. So do go and check it out, folks. So yeah, I had Antman, Gassama on both flanks with Diamandi, Raskin in midfield, and Miovski and Chermiti up top. Not seen much of Chermiti. Actually, big shout out to Jamie, who showed me on Saturday some of his highlights in an Everton jersey. Now, there isn't much, to be honest. It was just little flicks here and there, and a header that a goalkeeper saved in a friendly against Accrington Stanley. So there isn't much to go on there, Joshua, but that's a big call as well for Saturday. If he's fit and available, Does he start alongside Miovski? That would... Miovski starts for me. That's just there's no two ways about it. But does Russell Martin play the two? That is the interesting one.
I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised if Chermiti starts with a piece that will be out today or tomorrow. Speaking to his Sporting Lisbon youth coach, which provides some really interesting, I hope, context as to his career and what he's like as a player, and maybe why he hasn't scored so many goals. For me, again, thinking about this over the weekend, he's clearly a player that Rangers and the new recruitment team believe a lot in. I guess the question always is, it's a lot of money to spend. Is it the right time? Is it the right player? If he's coming in to develop here, people will expect quite a lot quite early. How many clubs are going to come and spend money on a striker to give you a real profit on that eventual 10 million that Rangers will spend on him? Now, I recognise that it's just an expensive market for strikers, but again, the argument would be that's maybe why he won't shop in England. But if he comes up and he scores a number of goals, and he like anything, if he can provide the difference of Rangers winning something, getting over the line, then people will forget about the price tag. But again, is it the right moment? Is it the right time to throw a player like this in? We'll probably learn a lot quite early because there's just so much football up here. And
yeah,
again, speaking to a few people about him in Portugal, the word that keeps coming up is he was a reference point, and what that translates to, I think, is he was the one that people would look to in that age group. He was a striker people would look to as he's going to be the Portugal number 9. I think it was João Neves' age group that he played in with throughout the Portugal youth squads. And that's all very well and good. You can make a case for any new signing. You can make a case for anyone with, we're going to get the potential out of them that no one else has had before. Michael Beale used to use the phrase the kind of broken player or broken kid who's maybe fallen off a bit, and we can't afford them at their best, so we're going to get them where they are just now and try and bring them back. And you can probably only carry so many projects in a team at any one given time.
Yeah.
Now, how much of a project Chermiti is, because he should be of a good standard, having been bought for that money twice in his career. But we've seen a lot of talented loan players. Fabio Silva's just went to Borussia Dortmund for 25 million euros, I think. Amad Diallo, Malik Tillman. None of these guys. Malik Tillman for me was brilliant, but none of these guys have been universal flavour of the month, because it's such a difficult environment to develop players. And that's why I keep coming back to the spine of the team. I think you can develop them if you've got 3 or 4 or 5 who in a game say, don't worry, follow me. I know how to get over this particular experience, breaking down a low block, dealing with an angry crowd, going away from home. So that's why I'm a bit tentative about it at the moment, if that makes sense, Derek. I don't know about you, but that's my main thought, and how difficult it can be to develop players up here when things aren't going well.
Yeah, it's a tough environment, of course. Umar Sadiq is another one, of course, who looked like he was a competition winner at Rangers, but went for, I think, big money over in Spain. He's very highly rated down there. It's not easy. A lot of players that you mentioned earlier on about Alexa Rothwell coming up and finding it a little bit difficult. They probably I heard actually Stephen Robinson. I can't remember where he was on, but maybe a press conference speaking about English boys that come up and join them, and many of them underestimate what they're walking into, and they just think, Scottish football, it's not going to be as tough a level as the English game, but they find themselves surprised at the intensity and the competitiveness of the game up here. And then if you magnify that by 100 when you put a Rangers jersey on, it really is a pressure cooker environment that you have to have big shoulders to play in. But there you go. Before we wrap up, a quick word, of course, no Rangers in action, the first team this weekend, but congratulations to the women's team for an Old Firm win yesterday at Hamilton's New Douglas Park. They ran out 2-0 victors to leapfrog Celtic and climb to the top of the SWPL, and now sits on 10 points, a point ahead of Celtic, goals coming from Mia Macaulay and Ailey Austin as well in the second half. So congratulations to them, motoring along nicely. And there's speaking of the women's team, we've got a great piece that Blair did, an interview with Katie Wilkinson over on the website. Do go and check it out, folks. It's well worth a read. And talking about the big season for the first team, as it always is, Joshua, big season for the women's team, of course, there, because
Yes.
need to win that coveted league title, don't they?
Yeah, because they've been so close. That's last season. They've kind of repeated that like twice in the last few years, haven't they?
Yeah.
And new management, someone who knows Scotland and Scottish game very well. And you're right, Blair's piece with Katie Wilkinson is a great read. Goes into not only her time at Rangers, career at Rangers, but really fascinating backstory about her involvement elsewhere in football and kind of life as a business owner as well. So yeah, well worth the read and a really good win. I think a win that did they need it at this stage of the season? I think you always do, but going away from home, it's a bit of a statement as well, isn't it? So yeah, go and read that interview with Blair. It's near the top of the website and is a very good read.
Yeah, jolly good. Right, just a heads up, folks. We this week we'll have you covered with all your Rangers content. We spoke last week. You've seen the little story that I liked, the story of the Chilean lower league side, Rangers de Talco, I think is their name. We've been working hard behind the scenes to get representatives from that club on a show. So that will be coming your way at some point this week. So it'll be intriguing to see what they have to say. Of course, they released their I think it was an away kit, a third kit, which said royal blue with a red trim, and the badge is very similar to Rangers. They have back to their Rangers roots. They go way back, the relationship with the club. So it'll be interesting to get their point of view on the club and their connection with Rangers as well. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And yeah, if we don't speak to you a little later on, then enjoy your Monday, whatever you are doing. We're off. We're at or freewheeling down towards the return of proper football again at the weekend. We're past that halfway stage of the international break. So yeah, we're heading down to what we hope will be Rangers getting back to winning ways. It has been a long time coming. But a big thank you to Joshua as ever. And thank you to you all for tuning in to the show. And we shall speak to you again soon. Bye for now.